We presented yesterday 49-month median follow-up for our patients that we treated with CAR T cells for refractory diffuse large B-cell lymphoma and follicular lymphoma. And I can say with confidence that the responses that we saw early on and that we previously reported at 2 years are durable. After the first year of remission, relapses are very, very rare. So the good news is that I will extrapolate from our studies that we did at University of Pennsylvania to the large registrational trials that have been done by Novartis and Kite Gilead and Juno Celgene, that their results, which are now approaching 2 years, are likely to be in 4 years like our results are, because they're reporting similar responses at 2 years as us. So what we found, looking at the best response rates in 24 patients with diffuse large B-cell lymphoma, we had a 46% complete response rate, and at 4 years, most of those patients were, about 2/3 of those patients were still responding. Only one patient who had a complete response had progression of disease after a year. So durable responses. Follicular lymphoma, we had only a cohort of 14, but again, the response rates were even higher. We had 71% complete response rates, and hadn't reached the median response duration at 4 years. Although we did have several relapses in follicular lymphoma after a year, as opposed to large cell where we only had one relapse, but the higher initial complete response rate leads to the figures that I just mentioned. But the good news is, that these are durable remissions that can be achieved with a single treatment using the genetically modified T cells, and really offer for patients a line of therapy now for situations that we previously, prior to CAR T cells, had nothing to offer. And as you know, last year, and actually in 2017, CAR T cells were first approved in the US, and then last year, the Novartis product, which was the product that we developed at Penn, was approved for lymphoma, which is really gratifying. But I think there's room for improvement. There always is room for improvement. We're not at 100%, certainly not at 100% with large cell lymphoma, and that's really where I see a lot of potential space that we can improve outcomes by incorporating some of the new technologies that are being presented here at this meeting. There's a lot of exciting stuff going on. There's very impressive results that have been presented for the bispecific antibodies, which are essentially a form of cellular therapy like CAR T cell, except that instead of genetically modifying the T cells, you give an antibody derivative which can engage the patient's T cells with the tumor cells, and the response rates are really impressive. We don't yet have the durations, but I could see partnering these agents with CAR T cells so that we can target more than one antigen. The CAR T cells that we use target just one antigen on the tumor, which is CD19. But the bispecifics, can offer additional antigens without even doing genetic modifications. I could see that being one application. There are a number of targeted therapies that have been presented at this meeting, like BTK inhibitors. As you know, in CLL, ibrutinib has essentially changed the paradigm. I mean, there's data now showing a survival benefit for patients that get ibrutinib as part of first therapy. I think it's replacing the chemotherapy approach to that disease. Well, it turns out ibrutinib has off-target effects that enhance T cell function. And so we actually did a trial in chronic lymphocytic leukemia at Penn, where we treated patients with ibrutinib for 6 months, and for those patients who had less than partial response, we went ahead and did CAR T-cell therapy, continuing ibrutinib throughout. Excellent results. I think of the 11 cases I can think of where we did MRD testing, 10 of 11 patients were negative. This was a study that was led by Sar Gill at our institution. And as you know, MRD negativity in CLL bodes for a very good long-term outcome. It's a good biomarker, which we don't have for all of the diseases. Mantle cell lymphoma is another area where I see the near future as very promising in terms of advances in therapy. There was data presented here using a similar CAR to what we used at Penn, that is 4-1BB co-stimulatory CAR, that was sponsored by Juno Celgene in mantle cell lymphoma. Follow-up's very short, but the responses were really promising, very high response rate, and I think thinking along the lines of what was presented with BTK inhibitors and mantle cell lymphoma, another opportunity like what we had in CLL to combine. So looking at all these different modalities, small molecule inhibitors of intracellular signaling, new immunologic techniques, and seeing potential to overlap or integrate these approaches makes me think that we presented some nice data, but maybe 4 years from now we'll have even better data to present, because we plan to do a lot of combination studies to improve outcomes.